aside, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was by the sea. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue named Jairus came, and when he saw him, fell at his feet and begged him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live." So he went with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians and had spent all that she had, and she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. For she said, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well." Immediately her hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" He looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling, fell down before him, and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace, and be healed of your disease." While he was still speaking, some people came from the leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the house of the leader of the synagogue, he saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. When he had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. Then he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha kum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And immediately the girl got up and began to walk about. She was 12 years of age. At this they were overcome with amazement. He strictly ordered them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. 2 women. Well, one barely on the brink of womanhood, a whole life ahead of her. The other mature, but with a life not worth living. Both of them unnamed. 2 men. One a father with an important place in the world and in his synagogue. The other a son, a healer. Both have names and agency. There are others with cameo roles, 3 disciples with names, 1 nameless mother. The rest are extras, the crowd pressing in to watch, to see how this story plays itself out. The action begins as Jesus returns from his brief trip across the stormy Sea of Galilee. His feet are barely on dry ground when he is surrounded by the crowd. And a man, a dignified man and father, Jairus, approaches him, falls on his knees, and begs for help. It is his daughter, you see, his beloved daughter who is dying. Nothing has helped. Why else would the synagogue leader seek out this uncredentialed, itinerant preacher and healer? They must hurry. There is no time to waste. Nothing will do except that Jesus must touch the girl, lay his hands upon her, and she will recover. Immediately, Jesus and Jairus set out on this urgent mission. Yet they've gone just a short distance when they are interrupted by a touch, one light touch amongst the many bumps and nudges of elbows and shoulders as the jostling crowd surges forth. Yet this one touch of an anonymous hand on the garment's hem is acutely felt. And Jesus is stopped in his tracks as he feels the healing force leave his body and seeks that hand that has now been withdrawn and is hidden. It was a surreptitious touch, a forbidden touch. A woman must not touch an unknown man. A woman made impure by an affliction like hers, 12 long years of hemorrhage, must not, dare not, touch another, for the impurity will be passed on. Indeed, she shouldn't even be there in the crowd. She should stay on the fringes, alone. And yet, she dared to reach out and touch Jesus. And though she could have just faded into the crowd, she has been healed, after all, through that touch. She comes forward and confesses, and Jesus calls her daughter. By now, of course, precious time has passed, and a messenger from Jairus' home confirms that it is too late. Jairus' daughter has died. It is too late for Jesus' touch to save her, and yet it is not too late for Jesus. He goes to her, touches her hand, and wills her to rise. Two women, one just 12 years old, who will now live into adulthood. One who for those same 12 years has not lived, has been cast out, estranged from family and friends, resources depleted, who has been restored to wholeness and a life worth living, included, part of the community, a daughter. Two people reaching out and asking for what they need, crossing barriers, taking risks. The one with a name, Jairus, risked a loss of his position and prestige by going to this healer who was already unpopular with his religious authorities. Yet not taking the risk would mean losing his daughter. Wouldn't many of the rest of us do likewise? The other one, the one unnamed, had nothing left to lose except for the shame, the shunning, the indignity of being unclean. What the two have in common is their desperation and their willingness to cross those barriers, no matter what might come of it. This is not unlike those parents at our borders. Some say that detention and deportation are what they deserve, that they are irresponsible for putting their children in harm's way. Those critics do not understand desperation or what it is like to have nothing more to lose other than subjecting their children to torture and certain death. The risk is their only hope. What are we called to do? What is the church called to do in these times? It is easier to hear this 2,000-year-old story than those stories closer to home. We can point to our acts of kindness and charity, the food, the clothing, the money we give, and those are indeed important, necessary. Do we also need to work to dismantle the institutions, the laws and policies that contribute to the very poverty, exclusion, and oppression that make this charity necessary? What would Jesus do? And how do we follow him? Where are the barriers, the lines to cross, the borders? I am perplexed. I'm hearing so much about being civil, that our world needs to return to civility and lose its anger and its hate speech. I do not doubt that. It is loving and caring, and we Christians are called to love, aren't we? But I want to know about love that is deeper than playing nice. A speaking the truth in love, a standing up and calling out on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves. Not in hatred, not in contempt, but in strength and conviction. Martin Luther King Jr. knew that strides in civil rights would not be made with only politeness and civility. A greater stumbling block to freedom than even the Klan, he said, was those more devoted to order than to justice. It is easier to stand back and hide behind civility, but I'm sensing that we are called to more than that. The tricky part is how to do that with love as the foundation. Jesus showed us the way. He did not favor the important ones, the ones with names. He stopped for the one who had been forgotten and cast aside. Yet both were healed, both restored to life. Yet neither did he hesitate to admonish those who strayed from the path of love, even those with name and position. Can we do likewise? Can we risk crossing boundaries for the sake of love? Can we reach out and touch the dying and forgotten, those fearful of losing their privilege and power, those who deny that they have privilege or power? Can we show them another way? Will we? Please pray with me. Holy Healer, give us the courage to stretch our hand to touch your garment of healing, no matter how we have been judged or how we judge ourselves. Help us to know that you long to listen to our stories and you long to know our truth. Merciful border crosser, move us to places where we are uncomfortable so that all of your children might know your mercy, your grace, your healing. May we end up in places that need your understanding. May we wander upon roads that need your word. Remind us that it only takes a touch, just a touch of compassion, just a touch of daring, just a touch of heart, to receive your power so that we might participate in the healing of one another and this world. For the sake of love, we pray. Amen.